Hello, I'm Rowan Hicks. Join me today as we look at whether parents can get burnout as well. I talk a lot about teachers. An awful lot of teachers are also parents. And actually, I met a parent recently who is not a teacher, but she has two children, beautiful children who have additional needs. And she was on the verge of burnout. And it made me think, right, I'm going to have a look at the statistics on burnout and parents and see if there are suggestions of what we can do for ourselves as parents, as well as just teachers, and perhaps you're neither, or perhaps you're both. So here goes. So the statistic that really shocked me was the Action for Children in 2023 revealed that 82% of parents in the UK had experienced indicators of burnout. So that's not to say all of us were burning out or had burnt out, but we had indicators. Now, I don't know what your indicators of burnout are, but I have a pretty good idea what a lot of mine are. And if I look back over the years, my youngest child is now 20. My oldest child is about to turn 30. But if I look back at those years of parenting while I was teaching or being a Senko or a specialist teacher or deputy head, didn't matter. It's all full on in school. Whatever your role, you go in and it's full on, right? And most jobs, you're full on. I'm trying to remember what my symptoms of burnout were, right? But this parent I spoke to was saying that for 8 years, she hadn't had a full day off to herself. And she was exhausted, shattered, drained, empty. She is one of the best parents I know. She's the most amazing parent to these two beautiful children, with her husband, who's awesome as well. But she was shattered. First day off in 8 years. So if I look at myself, I suppose the story that always comes back for me is the day that I accidentally shaved my child's hair. And this was me running back from work late as usual. And I knew my kids were going off with their dad for a holiday. And one of them shouted, Mum, you said you'd get here earlier. You're going to shave my hair. And I said, no problem, plug it in. I'm here. We can do it. Going to a hot country, didn't want to have too long hair. So I sat them down, said, quick, let's do this. We've got it. What did I do? I forgot to put on the attachment, the number 4. And I just shaved straight down the back, from the front, down the middle of their hair. And we stopped and we looked. And we realized what I'd done. And this was just symptomatic of the way that I lived at that point, which was too fast, trying to do too many things. 4 beautiful children, working, juggling, and not quite keeping all the balls in the air. Well, that beautiful child went to Morocco for a hot holiday with a beanie. And smiles about it now, thankfully. But that whole week, when I was supposed to be having a holiday, because I didn't have my kids to look after and I just had myself, I felt guilt. I felt shame that I wasn't a good enough mum. I was so overwhelmed with the ridiculous sort of pace of life and the thoughtlessness of my actions, really. And we do that to ourselves as parents, don't we? Because we think, oh, we're not quite good enough. Look at how the person down the road is doing. Look at their children. Are they behaving better? I had a child, I'm not going to say which one of my 4, but in a sweet shop, age about 2.5. And he was allowed to, I've just given you a clue. He was allowed to he was allowed to choose 5 one-piece sweets and put them in his bag. Anyway, he wanted more. So he put 5 in and then he tried putting more in. I kept saying, no, that was your limit. Anyway, he put the bag very, very carefully down so it didn't spill of his 5 sweets. And then he threw himself on the ground and had a mega tantrum, thinking that was going to change my mind. I was so embarrassed. People were sort of going around him and trying not to sort of go too close. Anyway, I won that one. But I was really embarrassed because the other children in the store weren't doing that. It was my child. And it's always our children, isn't it? Because no child is perfect. And at some point or other, they're going to show their real self and how that they're going to push boundaries. And hopefully, as a parent, you've got the energy to stand up, be consistent and reliable with your boundaries. But it is exhausting. So going back to the statistics, nearly a third of parents are saying that they have anxiety, then sleep deprivation and disruption is the next issue they've got. They feel isolated, many feel depressed, and a lot have overwhelming exhaustion, both physically and also mentally. So this is very real. And I don't know where you're at as a parent, but I so relate to that. Completely relate, right? So what can we do about it? And interestingly, different countries have almost identical issues, but Western countries have higher prevalence of burnout in parents. Well, if you've got a child with special needs, the prevalence is going to be higher. So I've worked with children and families who have children with special needs for years. It's my passion, really. I've worked with some outstanding parents. It's exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. And the world is a tough place to bring children up in, whether they've got special needs or not. But with special needs, it's extra tough because you have to fight that little bit harder, right? So I wonder what the signs are for you. So in 2023, very recently, the Guardian newspaper published the 4 key signs. The first was physical and emotional burnout, stress, exhaustion. The second, interestingly, is feeling shame as a parent, that you're not as good as you used to be or not as good as others. The third was feeling fed up or overwhelmed. And the next one is emotionally disconnected from your children. Wow. So how do we deal with this as parents? Because as an adult, as a teacher, as a leader, I understand imposter syndrome. I understand feeling not good enough. I could never be enough, do enough, help enough. I also understand overwhelm, that list that never gets done, that never finishes. I understand the impact of sense of not being as good as you used to be. Because when I got really drained and went on to survival, I felt real shame as a parent because I wasn't a good enough parent. At one time, it was, 8 or 10 years ago, I had to have 6 months off school, and I had the most incredible head teacher who was very, very kind and supportive through my burnout, my first burnout. But the shame of that, of letting my team down at school, but then the second level of shame of not being able to be a good enough parent because I was quite unwell. I was very unwell, actually. I just wasn't a good enough parent. I couldn't really parent. Huge level of shame and fear and just the chaos that brings to your mind. So how can we help? How can we help each other? And I would say to you, what I have learned, the key is safe people around you. You don't need very many. But you need 1 or 2 people around you who get it and who you can just go troubleshoot, find solutions, or even just unload to them. Does that make sense? I had a really sad incident this morning, very, very hurtful. And I have an amazing friend, and I just rang them up and said, have you got 5 minutes? I just need to process this with somebody. And at the end of it, I felt better just because I'd shared it. Problem shared and halved, right? But what else can we do if, as a parent, we're feeling all these burnt out symptoms? Okay, so the big thing is to be less critical of yourself. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You're not a perfect parent. You're never going to be. And actually, don't expect it of yourself. What about if you thought about today, maybe if I could do 80% or even 60%, and then tomorrow you could be 61%. Just take small steps, and maybe each week try one new thing, but don't try and expect yourself to do it all straight away, because it's overwhelming and you won't manage it. So one small thing, be less critical and expect less of yourself, because actually what your kids want is your time. They don't want a beautiful, tidy house. They don't want all their games sorted. They don't mind if you're wearing the same t-shirt as either you're wearing the same t-shirt as yesterday or they are. As long as they've got food to eat and they're safe, if you're happy, they're going to be happy, because that makes them feel safe. I don't know if that resonates with someone today, but I think that there's a really powerful lesson for us, that those around us pick up how we are internally, don't they? So if you're feeling really rubbish and drained and stressed and negative about yourself and how you're coping with life, your children are going to pick that up. Your class is going to pick that up. Your colleagues are going to pick that up. So it's about saying to yourself, okay, this is me right now. I'm running on half empty, half full, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm 50% capacity right now. So what can I manage today? And actually, what could I let go of? And that's work or children, home stuff. Are there things that you could drop? And then maybe next week you could think, okay, I'll try and reinstate that thing. You know, if your school's telling you you're not reading enough with your child and you should be reading every day with your child, yes, in an ideal world, of course you would be. And you're just not managing it because 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night, whatever, you are on your knees. You can't manage it. Why don't you think, okay, I'll take a week off. And then next week, I'll try 1 day a week. And then the next week, you try 2 days a week. Do you see what I mean? It's just, that's a simple example, I suppose, but it's tiny steps, 5-minute type steps. And maybe try juggling things around a little bit so that perhaps in the morning you read for 5 minutes while they're eating their cereal. We've got to be less critical, less self-critical if we're going to survive this, because we are doing our best as parents, but your children just want your time. I've spoken before about the time where I used to sit with my youngest before they went to bed and we'd watch a bit of TV most evenings. And I thought this was great quality time. I was on my laptop doing my work emails. And then one day the laptop broke, so I couldn't do my emails. And Ab said to me, Mum, finally, I've got your attention. And I thought, well, that's odd because we're still watching telly. But actually, all they wanted was my quality time for them. They didn't even need very long of it. So maybe pop that in and see if that helps balance your day, how you feel about what you're doing and how they feel about how you're doing for them. Because that little bit of bucket filling for them of total quality time where you put your phone aside, everything, just for them, maybe help you, maybe make you less self-critical. The other one is self-care. How are you on this? Have you tried it? Do you know what it even looks like? I got challenged by a 20-something teacher the other day to put into my diary, even once a week, a piece of self-care. Try it. It is amazing, because in that hour in the week, that is my time to do what helps me, what feeds me. It's amazing. Go for it. Have a try. I know it's a small thing, but it might just help. You've got to reframe self-care for yourself, because if you don't care for yourself, you're not going to be able to look after those around you. And that goes for children, your class in school, whoever else it is, your family, whoever. I suppose the final thing I want to say is don't try and change something major straight away. Try something tiny. Take small, achievable, tiny steps. Yeah, because I think we say, okay, I'm not doing this very well. I'm heading for burnout. I've got to change everything. But actually, that's not realistic. Maybe try changing one tiny thing at a time. And be kind to yourself, because you are so precious. As a parent, so precious. But even simply as an adult, you are so precious. And you have got to look after yourself, because even if you've got an amazing partner, amazing friends, if you don't look after yourself, you're not going to be as good as as you could be at supporting those around you, whatever your role, because you are that precious. You have that value just because of who you are. I get things wrong all the time. I mess up so badly, I can't tell you. Even at my old age of 56, I mess up things that I think, oh, how could that have gone wrong with my family or whoever? But then I have to realize that we're all human and I still have value, even if I'm told I'm not good enough. If I'm told things that are really hard to hear, maybe there's an element of truth in it, but whatever, I still have value. You still have value. Your worth is immense. So do look after yourself. So if this has resonated with you at all, I hope it helps you a little bit. Maybe share it with a friend who you know is struggling as a parent or as a teacher or as some other role. Doesn't really matter, because it's the same guidelines apply to all of us, because life is busy, fast, and furious. But we need to stop a little bit, take that breath and think, right, what can I do for myself today, this week? So I hope that's helped someone a little bit. Thanks for listening. I hope you took something of value from today. If you want to connect, I'm at rowenahicks.com, or I have a Facebook group, which is Preventing Teacher Burnout. So I look forward to connecting to you at one of those.